He forgot our anniversary again. The candles burned out before he got home. He texted, "Busy with work, don't wait up." I stared at the message for a long time, long enough for the screen to go black, my reflection staring back at me in the glass. His voice from earlier in the day echoed in my mind, strained, distracted, rehearsed. Something in his tone felt off. Not tired, not stressed, occupied. That night, I opened the window. Cold air slipped in, biting my skin awake. I thought of all the anniversaries he'd missed, each one explained, excused, forgiven. But this time felt different. He hadn't even pretended to remember. No guilt, no flowers on the counter, just silence, and that message. I reached for my phone again, scrolling through his previous texts, looking for something, anything that might steady me. But then I saw it, a receipt, buried between bank notifications. A jewelry store, 2 days ago. The item line read, "Engraved bracelet. To my love, S." My name doesn't start with S. The next morning, he kissed my forehead before leaving for meetings. His lips were cold. His eyes didn't hold. I watched from the window as he drove away, a familiar ache hollowing my chest. But behind that ache, something new stirred. Quiet curiosity, a slow, deliberate hum of control returning. I poured coffee, sat down, opened my laptop. The receipt had a transaction ID, a small thing, but enough. The store's website offered a track order option. When I entered it, the screen blinked and displayed the pickup confirmation. He'd signed for it himself. The bracelet had been collected at 5:47 p.m., the same evening he'd told me he was stuck in traffic. My mind replayed that night in fragments. The late call, the muffled noise behind him, the hesitation before saying, "Love you." A pattern formed quietly, each piece fitting too easily. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just watched the steam rise from my coffee and thought, so this is how endings begin. Without sound, without drama, just detail. Over the next week, I became an observer, a shadow in my own house. His phone always face down. His laughter, different, softer, more careful, like he was afraid it might give him away. I mirrored him, calm, predictable, every word rehearsed, every glance measured. I started staying late at work. He didn't notice. He was too busy explaining imaginary deadlines and last-minute dinners. One night, I followed him. His car led me to the city's edge, to a small restaurant he'd never mentioned. Through the fogged glass, I saw him and her. A woman with dark hair and a silver bracelet glinting under candlelight. She laughed at something he said, touching her wrist, showing it off. I didn't move closer. I didn't need to. The world around me went quiet, colors flattening into grayscale. It was confirmation without confrontation, truth without words. When I returned home, I sat in the dark and wrote everything down. Dates, times, places. Not out of rage, but precision. I wanted to understand the anatomy of betrayal, the mechanics of how love decays. Every deception, recorded. Every lie, cataloged. 2 days later, he came home early, flowers in hand, cheap redemption wrapped in paper. He smiled like nothing was wrong. I smiled back, almost admiring his nerve. Over dinner, I slid the jewelry receipt across the table. No words, just paper. He froze. Eyes flicked from the receipt to me, back again. The silence stretched. Finally, he whispered, "It's not what it looks like." I tilted my head, studying him as though he were a puzzle missing pieces. "It's a bracelet," I said quietly, "engraved for someone who isn't me." His lips trembled. It's for a client." I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I leaned forward. "Say her name." He couldn't. The room filled with the sound of his breathing, fast, shallow, panicked. Mine stayed steady. I let him watch the calm in my eyes as his excuses fell apart. It was a cruel mercy, to let him see that I already knew, that he no longer had power over the narrative. The next morning, I packed his things. Folded shirts, ties, the watch I bought him for our 5th anniversary. Each item placed with surgical precision into the suitcase by the door. He returned late, expecting forgiveness. Instead, he found silence and the bracelet. It sat on the table, glinting beneath the kitchen light, the engraving turned up like an accusation. He stared at it, then at me. "What are you doing?" he asked, voice shaking. "Freeing us both," I said simply. His hands trembled. "You're overreacting." I stepped closer. "No, I'm just reacting later than most." Then I handed him the receipt again, folded neatly, as if it were the final page of a story. "You should give this back to her, or bury it. Either fits." When I walked past him, he reached for me, but stopped halfway. He saw something in my eyes that made him drop his hand. It wasn't hatred, it was absence. He texted for weeks after I left. Apologies, regrets, explanations no one asked for. I didn't block him, I just didn't reply. I kept the screenshot of the receipt though, not as proof, just as a reminder of what silence can uncover. Now, when I think of him, it's not anger I feel, it's clarity. He thought forgetting anniversaries meant neglect, but it was something else, an instinctive rehearsal for absence. He just didn't realize the silence would one day belong to me. And it does, completely.